gosh.
It's like the worst thing. I don't know if it's the same for you. I would imagine it's different, but like we work in the industry. We're on courses constantly. We're talking with people constantly, but I feel like I've never played less in my life.
I know, right?
Is it the
Do
same
you
for
feel
you?
that way too?
It is.
Okay.
It's totally that way.
Well, it's not just us. That's
You
good.
get in the business, and then
Yeah.
your golf game goes.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's real because
It's less.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 5 of the Wedgies podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm joined today by my brother,
Hello, brother.
Caden, and we are freshly back from Christmas break, if you
Christmas,
will,
New Year's craziness.
from the
yeah.
holidays. How was your holiday, my
Well,
brother?
I mean, just we obviously spent Christmas morning together.
Oh, that
because
we did.
We
yeah.
are brothers.
Me asking you how your Christmas was. I was there.
But you know how my Christmas morning went. Why don't you let them in on a little secret?
About your Christmas morning?
Yeah.
You mean Christmas morning?
Well, I spent the night on the couch, but why did I do that?
Oh, that thing. Caden got food poisoning on Christmas Eve.
Well,
You started feeling it on Christmas Eve.
we are still unaware of how we got sick. And by we went to a family party with my girlfriend. A bunch of people from that party got sick. We're not sure if it was something in the food or somebody had the flu and brought it in. Either way, not Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve night, all day I'm feeling great. Christmas Eve night, right at about midnight.
You were fine the whole day. And then
yeah.
I was getting ready to go to bed, and my bedroom at my parents' house is in the basement. And Caden was sleeping on the couch in the main floor. And I was like, all right. And then I didn't know until the morning that you were up dealing with stuff all night.
I was puking all night.
There we go. Now it's out there.
Puking all night. Woke up the next morning. So tired while everyone's opening gifts, but still a great Christmas.
Well, good.
It was fun.
Good.
But yeah. And then we both kind of had our own little trip after that.
I went out to Arizona for New Year's with my girlfriend and her family. Got to play some golf, which was fantastic because can't play it here.
Yep.
Played 2 rounds of golf, and then the 2 days that we were off, we hit the range, so there was balls being hit every day. It was awesome. And then the highlight for me, I guess, from that would have been the last round of golf that we played. I had a near hole out on hole 18 on the last hole. It one-hopped, rolled around the cup twice, and just trickled out, so...
Wow.
Good enough for me in the offseason.
Had some hot action on that ball, huh?
It was coming in hot, but it was nice.
All right.
It was tracking. So we had fun there. And then you were
I also went on a trip with my girlfriend and her family. They do a trip for Christmas every year, and this year was a little bit of a change up. We originally were supposed to go to Yellowstone and parts of Montana and Idaho. Stay in a cabin, and we were supposed to go snowmobiling through Yellowstone, the park, and then dog sledding in Montana. And about 2 days before we headed up there, the dog sled place called and said that they were closed because they had no snow. And then like 15 minutes later, snowmobile place had to cancel as well because of no snow in the park. So we still went up. We still had a good time, hung out at the cabin, snowmobiled at a different place, but basically cut the trip short like 2 or 3 days and came back home. So
either way, good times had by all.
Good times.
You may not have been able to snowmobile or dog sled, but what you have been able to do is have a new guest on the podcast and chat with them.
Yes.
Which we will show you here in a bit. We're shooting with a new guest later today at Scratch Golf Lab, Scott Petersen from Scott Golf, founder, designer,
Creator, everything.
genius,
Mastermind.
and he was he'll be a lot of fun to talk with. We're really excited about it, so we'll throw it over to that.
Yeah. And check out his website, check out his Instagram. The stuff he makes is beautiful. Like some of the most pretty clubs and manufacturing I have ever seen. So we'll go chat with him, but look him up.
Yep, so stay tuned for that.
Okay. All right, so today we are joined by an awesome guest. So this is Scott Petersen, the creator and founder of Scott Golf. So Scott, welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you here today.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, you
Excited
bet.
to be here.
So I think first and foremost, obviously we're kind of introducing you to a lot of our audience and things like that. So just want to kind of get the background on who Scott, the person is, but also the designer and master behind the clubs are.
Okay, a little background on myself. I've been golfing since I was like 10. Grew up in Oregon, Florida, ended up back here in Utah. I'm a general contractor and engineer by most of my known trades. Until about 20 years ago, I started playing around making golf clubs again to see what I could do.
Nice.
And it took me a few sets to get where I was comfortable with them, but they became outstanding, and now I think are one of the greats in the world. It's just not known yet.
Right. Yeah. You
by-
just got
by
to
many.
spread the word. And
Right.
then, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you that aren't aware or haven't seen them, Scott's clubs that he makes are like some of the most beautiful irons, wedges, and putters I've ever seen. Like they are so sleek, so cool. And so kind of one of the biggest questions that I've had, obviously, kind of before meeting you was, how do you go from, being just a player of the game to designing and making the coolest clubs ever?
Well, now I want to follow up with that question too. You mentioned in your fantastic bio that you just gave that you're an engineer, right?
Correct.
And you have those skills and everything. So why golf? Like, how did you get there? You could make anything, do anything. Why? What was it about golf that called you to it?
So in the late 1990s, I've been a golfer forever, but I just kind of noticed the feel and the performance that I liked in golf was getting lost by most of the big six. And so I started playing Japanese clubs. So I played 14s and Miuras and Mizuno, which are all fantastic companies. But I was like, okay, what do they have that I don't? And why isn't anybody out of the United States doing this? So it was just a thought at one moment that said, okay, I can do this. Okay. So I made a design and crafted it out of steel, and it was kind of ugly at first. It was pretty bad.
I can imagine that your first stab at it probably wasn't your best work of all time. But no, I mean, because I did a little bit of research into you as well, and I know that prior to kind of diving into the clubs and the golf world, you were a home builder and commercial designer, correct?
Correct.
How do you feel like those two things, like how much crossover is there between designing homes and building commercial buildings to clubs?
So standards of excellence.
Okay.
Okay. So I hold my companies at a very high standard, and we will be second to no one. Okay, in both industries.
Yeah.
So we're never the cheapest, but we are one of the best, and customer feedback in both areas is outstanding.
No, that's awesome. I mean, so you mentioned you've been playing golf since you were 10,
Yeah.
right? Just a general question that I want to throw out is, so Caden, my brother and I, we've probably been playing since we were like 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8.
Roughly, right? And then, growing up playing the game, it wasn't very cool. It wasn't cool to golf when we were young. We would have been the early 2000s, right?
Yeah, and I mean early 2010s going through high school.
Yeah, 2010 is when we were playing, and there was, people would ask me like, oh, like what sports you do or what do you do? And we played basketball and golf growing up. Caden and I did, and I'd be like, oh, I play basketball and golf. And kids in our own high school would be like, oh, we have a golf team? Like it wasn't very cool growing up. To now, like it's one of the biggest sports in the world. COVID had a lot to do with that, right? Completely blowing it up. And game is arguably, as big as it's ever been on a global scale. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of new companies emerge in the golf space. We're seeing a lot of collaboration between existing companies. You mentioned Miura already, right? With being Japanese. They recently announced a collaboration with Grayson Clothers.
Right.
you've seen that. I just want to get your general thoughts on that as we're kind of talking about equipment and now kind of where the game is at today.
Wow. Okay. So the game today is obviously, it's gone 100-fold in the last 5 years. Collaborations are great. I think it's a good thing coming up, and people are starting to see this and put it into work. Mira Grayson, great, good job. I don't know where I'll go with it, but hopefully we'll find some good connections and make a run with that. But
Yeah, and I was kind of curious, kind of along that too. Your kind of perspective as to like who the ideal player for Scott Golf Clubs is. Can you give us some insight into that?
And we've done a lot of this recently. Is everybody out there? Social media is so big anymore. It drives every business. So everybody wants to be their own brand, right? So what we do at Scott Golf is we create a set of clubs customized to you, which helps you brand yourself in this industry, which nobody else is doing. Okay, they're collaborating with other companies, but they're not bringing that person and their individuality into that set of clubs, which kind of sets me apart from the others.
Yeah. And do you want to walk us kind of through that process a little bit?
Yeah, that was my next question. Are you saying just kind of like, I find Scott on the website and everything, and I want a set of clubs. What does that process from start to finish look like?
Exactly. Or if I'm listening to the podcast and I'm like, wow, this sounds really interesting, I want to learn more. What's the process for somebody coming into that wants to play Scott equipment? What does that kind of beginning to end process look like? What can someone expect?
They can expect. So first of all, want to have an interview or a phone call. I want to learn a little bit about them. I want to know what they want. A lot of people just want a set of clubs, and that's fine. A lot of people want their personal logo. So if I do them for baseball players, football players, etc., basketball, they have a lot of them have a logo that is their own personal logo, and then we'll incorporate that into the club somewhere, whether it's on the head or usually on the head. Most of the time, wedges, putters.
Just because there's more of that surface area on the back to stamp things and things.
Right, it's like a clear slate to do your artwork. And then we'll proof their art. I do all the image prep before it goes to machine and get it proofed and test it, see if they like it, and go.
Nice. And so in that process, because of how custom they are, I'm sure there's lots of like proofs and things that you're sending and getting feedback back and forth. But in terms of like testing the clubs and things, do you have a process set up where, guys can come out and hit a number of your clubs and then kind of go off of there, or how does that whole thing work?
Yeah. So I have fitters across the U.S.
Oh, cool.
That are able to fit people, which is a critical part of getting the best set of clubs to fit your game anyway.
Yeah.
So if they're in Utah area, I do it here locally. If they're in Florida, I have 3 or 4 around that state.
Okay.
California as well. And Chicago just hooked up with Nippon.
Oh, cool.
So Nippon Shaft Centers is going to have my heads in their fittings facilities, which is big. So
that's huge.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
So yeah, that was something that I actually wasn't aware of prior to just now. Is I figured that you probably, obviously you home base out of Utah. That's where most of the manufacturing actually happens. Is that correct or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're saying that, you have areas across the U.S. where, people don't have to travel all the way to Utah to get your clubs. They can do it.
Correct.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does the creation of the irons look like?
So design first, and I'll sketch everything out. And then once I like what I'm seeing, then I'll take it to AutoCAD and put it in CAD and 3D it. And then I can see what it is. Then I got to send it overseas to get molds made, get them proofed, get one made. If it's good and I like it, first, usually I get them back, I make changes, take them back in my shop, start grinding, cutting, doing the detailing that I like to see, and then send it back to them.
I love that. And you talked about Japan and stuff. Like, we work very closely with Mizuno.
Okay.
Great friends of ours. Their irons are awesome. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that feel that you talk about is like, it's so real,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, they're Japanese and they make all their stuff over there. And that's exciting, I think, to me, that we've got something like that here in Utah, like in the backyard. That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, let alone custom club manufacturers,
Yeah. And
but the
why
way
do you
that
stay
you're doing
here? Why haven't you gone to Scottsdale or Jupiter or whatever? Why here?
Family, family ties now.
Yeah.
I mean, I did live in Florida for 20 years, so.
Did you start Scott out there? You started the brand out there, or was it here?
No, I started it here.
Okay.
So, why not? I don't know. I wonder sometimes, but I have a lot of friends in Scottsdale. I have a few near Jupiter.
Yeah.
In that area of Florida. I live near Tampa, so most of my contacts are on the west coast of Florida. But there's a few nice courses in Florida.
Yeah, there are.
One or two, right?
Yeah,
Yes, there are.
there's a couple of good ones. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to play it all while you're out there?
yes,
I want to take our clubs out.
I know. We're out there for a lot of client work and then also our own networking opportunities. And so the
See-
time to be able to go play for 4 or 5 hours is difficult for us, especially with our team size. But yeah,
we
we'll
drive
see.
by
See what
so
we can
many
do.
cool courses. And
oh my gosh,
It's like the worst thing. I don't know if it's the same for you. I would imagine it's different, but like we work in the industry, we're on courses constantly, we're talking with people constantly, but I feel like I've never played less in my life.
I know, right?
Is it the
do
same
you
for
feel
you?
that way too?
It is.
Okay.
It's totally
Okay.
that way.
Well, it's not just us. That's
you
good.
get in the business, and then
Yeah.
your golf game goes.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's real because
It's less.
we all talked about it and we're like, how can we make what Dane always talks about? Like, he read Phil Knight's Shoe Dog book, and one of the things that he cites all the time is Phil Knight talks in that book about how he wanted to make running his everyday because it was when he was in school, but then after it wasn't. So he's like, how can I make running my everyday? And so Dane will talk a lot about that specifically, that he read that part of the book and he's like, how can I make golf my everyday? And so that was, and we obviously felt the same way and we're like, yeah, how can we do that? And then like, ironically, we played less than we ever have.
And I mean, it still beats being close to the game and the people in it, like still beats working some other, 9-to-5 job and playing more. Like I'd rather be closer to the industry and the people in it than not. And if that means sacrificing a few rounds a year, then like, that's okay.
Sure.
But it is torture sometimes when we go shoot. We were doing a project for Mizuno where we were filming and talking with all their PGA players, and they're sitting there striping balls, and it's just watching that is just the biggest form of torture I think out there.
Do you know Sea Island? Have you been to Sea Island? It's in Georgia.
It's in southern Georgia.
Oh, I've been there.
Okay, cool. So that's where our shoot was at.
Okay.
And they've got this, insane training complex, right? Super nice facility. And then they have like 3 or 4, I think 4 if you count the one on the other side of the street. But they've got 3 or 4 courses all right there that you can play. And Kiva and myself had the opportunity to film some matches on all of those courses. With like pros, Corn Ferry guys, LPGA girls and stuff, and these beautiful courses, and they're playing so well, and we're just sitting there like, can I hit one? You know what I mean? Like,
I know,
Just
right?
what we would have done to
hoping-
just
yeah.
play one hole or hit one shot.
Hoping they have to take a bathroom break so you can sneak out and hit one or something.
Yeah.
I've seen these like beautiful courses, like once in a lifetime courses.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Hit a ball.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I've been on that course. Oh, what'd you shoot? Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I know all the holes, but I didn't.
A camera. I shot a
ball.
camera.
I walked it.
Yeah, I walked it.
No, but we'll have to get
Can't
out and play
complain,
once
though.
it warms up a bit.
Yeah.
I
we could
honestly-
use a little bit.
I would love to take a swing with one of the irons, so that'd be awesome.
One major question that I have is, I mean, we talked a little bit about the game, you know, in the 90s. You're talking about that. We've talked a little about the, 2000s, stuff like that. I'm curious, as a club manufacturer and designer, what are some like major pitfalls that you've seen in clubs today? You know, like you touched on it a little bit in the past, right? And you'd been playing some clubs from the Big Six and you hadn't seen anything that was like what you were used to or trying to find. What are some things that you see today in equipment today that maybe are falling a little flat or a little short?
So what I'm seeing in the whole industry across the board right now is distance. Okay. So everybody is gone to what they want to call AI designs,
Yep.
jelly-filled irons, and they're strengthening the lofts. Okay, so I think that's a bad thing to do. Okay, nobody needs to be hitting their pitching wedge 185 yards. Okay, that's
But it's fun. It's cool to do that in front of your
cool.
At your scramble
I
tournament?
know, right? But then where's the rest of the clubs fit in?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could make a set like 6 through pitch and be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so as it is already, okay, if there's a good player can hit a driver 275 to 300, they never see a 5 or a 6 iron anyway. Okay, so why do you need to keep strengthening lofts?
Yeah.
Okay, in my eyes, that's it's a gimmick. Okay, the big club manufacturers are full of gimmick cells across the board, from driver to their wedges.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and to build on that question, I want to talk to you about this too, because Tanner and I were actually having this conversation with our dad last night about kind of these gimmicky things that a lot of the bigger club manufacturers are doing, to where it's kind of whatever's trending in that year or in that couple years. So you said AI right now, as a consumer and as an avid golfer myself, I'm like, what does AI have to do with a club face? And back in, a couple of years ago, it was carbon. Everything was carbon.
When you talk about jelly-filled irons,
Yeah,
too,
jelly.
and
Like,
talk
what
about
does that
driver
actually
heads too,
do?
Injected heads, all this kind of stuff.
Other
right?
than just simply act as a buzzword for people to say, okay, well, I now need jelly-filled irons, or I now need an AI face to improve my game. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that the general public, the general population that watches golf, they like that. Okay, they want to see.
Yeah.
They think they can buy a game in a box. Okay, now boom. Okay, so and so came up with this new iron, and they're saying it's faster. It's longer. It's got less spin. Well, I could take my 7 iron and put a P on it and claim the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so now my 7 iron's a pitching wedge.
And you can smack that 180
I
one
can
night.
hit that 180 yards all day long.
Yeah, and to kind of go off that too, obviously the new changes in kind of the regulations of the ball that we're allowed to play now. What's kind of your take on that? Because obviously you're more in favor of the playability, workability, the feel of irons specifically. Now that the ball is going to be going a little bit shorter, do you think we're going to see this jump in even more distance and even more speed?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know what's around the corner anymore.
Yeah, just everything's changing so fast.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with everything changing so fast, which is very true, and, we've talked about carbon fiber, AI, like there's these kind of cool terms or these buzzwords that come every 2 to 3 years or whatever. With everything changing so much and not knowing what's around the corner and stuff like that, what do you look to do in your clubs, or what do you aim to keep consistent so that no matter what's going on in the golf space, you're making quality equipment? Like, what is the Scott promise in the clubs that you create and sell?
Right. So I've thought about that a lot and through the years. And what I will always sell will be a one-piece forged head. We'll always use 1020 carbon. It has the feel that everybody loves. Okay, a good player loves the feel of a 1020. It's softer. I'm not going to strengthen lofts. If I do, it'll be 2 degrees on a couple sets that are, my pitching wedge is 48 degrees. So, if I go to the standards of a couple other of the big that sort of keep to those standards, 46 will be a comfortable normal, but not 40, 41, 42. That's, I think that's unnecessary. And the better players will always like that.
Yeah.
They just will. They want to see that. They want to feel the difference. They want to be able to control the ball and know they don't have to carry 5 wedges now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess kind of with some of that, is there maybe an ideal type of player that you're looking for as a consumer, or is it open to anybody? Like, how does that kind of work on your end? Like, what type of player should be playing Scott equipment, or is there equipment that is there for anybody to use?
I make equipment that's for everybody. Okay, I have women's irons. I have men's irons, the SGO4 model, which is more of a game improvement or a forgiving iron, was my Golf Spy's #1 club in 2021-22.
Oh, wow.
So we can cater to anybody's game, from 20 handicap to +5.
Cool.
Or better. We'll go with anyone.
And yeah, one thing I wanted to know is the roster of Scott Golf players. Are there any like really notable players that a wide audience would know that
Who
are
have you
playing?
worked with throughout the years? Like, what rooms have you been in, or what players have you, or people have you interacted with during your time?
I've had interaction with quite a lot. I don't know if some of them would want me,
Of course.
spreading their, sharing their names and
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been involved in pro-ams at Pebble Beach a couple times. Some of the other bigger tournaments, which have all kind of celebrities. I've fit several baseball, basketball, and football players. So notable players that are out there right now, pros across the U.S. Danny LaCursi, Milo Lyons, Johnny Stoltz, who are all ambassadors for me and sell, represent and sell. We have on the spot Jordy LaBarbera on the LPGA. We got some big young kids coming up out of South Korea, which is going to be really
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fun to see. But the thing I run across is when I get the opportunity to be in front of somebody who's just got their PGA card or something that I've been working with, when they get that opportunity, okay, then they get approached. They're all vultures, waiting for that. Okay, now here comes a big company offering them $250,000 a year plus expenses and all this.
Yeah.
I can't compete with that.
Yeah, and that's so true, right? Like we have had the privilege to work with a lot of big companies in the golf industry, and you'd be surprised at even how competitive it is for companies that do have those budgets. Like just the access and what they're able to offer a lot of these players is kind of crazy. But what we've seen is kind of this trend in going for who's going to be the next big player, right? Instead of going for who is the big player right now,
Right.
I think it's a really smart move to kind of go, hey, we might not be able to compete with these guys with the biggest names, but who do we feel like we could get now that could 5, 10, 15 years from now be that big name? And so it sounds like kind of that's in a little bit your ideal kind of market right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We love kids, love the younger golfers.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. And, we today we've talked a little bit about legacy with some of the, with the Tiger news specifically that broke this morning. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I did not.
So, I mean, obviously rumor mill was that he was probably going to be leaving Nike. We've been hearing that for the last couple of weeks. Tiger made it official today, announcing the split with, a company that's been with him for 27 years.
Right.
Been with him obviously through all the ups and stayed with him through the downs, kind of talking about legacy. And I think as we're talking a little bit about, looking younger, looking at the youth, kind of getting in with them before they make it big and stuff like that, I think that's an ideal spot to be in, because you're getting in with somebody, giving them the time and attention that they need when nobody else is at that, at that really crucial time for them. And then obviously, sticking around, you're going to be in a position to stick around with them longer because you were there at the beginning and showing them the time and attention that they need there. So I think that's awesome. That's so cool that you've extended your reach beyond the U.S., in those borders. Yeah. South Korea specifically is huge for golf. And I mean, you were talking about when we were chatting with Dad just last night watching the Century.
Yeah.
There's Korean players all over there, and I can't remember the one specifically that Dad was highlighting, but he was like, this is a guy you need to watch out for. He's usually right about that stuff.
Yeah, Eam's good.
Yeah, he's
you're seeing more and more of these guys and ladies coming up from a country like South Korea. So, I mean, you mentioned that, and that just got me a little bit excited because I think that's a great spot to be in and very exciting.
Yep. And kind of the last question I had for you is, and I'm sure there's people all across the United States that feel like they're in this category to some degree. But where you're at currently, you hear Scotty Cameron, Bob Vokey, all those guys. Does Scott Petersen belong in that category 5 to 10, maybe 15 years from now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is that like a goal that you've had to kind of be in that category?
No, it never has been a goal of mine. But with the quality of the equipment that I'm putting out, I think it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I think that's so cool because, I mean, I've never spoken with Scotty. I've never spoken with Bob, but like, I think their mindset is very similar to yours and like let the product speak for itself.
Yeah.
Because the quality of the putters and the wedges that they make, respectively is what speaks for their name. And that's why their name is where it's at. And I think, if you're kind of on that same trajectory of putting the quality and the performance in front of everything else, you're bound to end up in that same kind of category.
I hope so. Yeah, I do now.
Well, let's do this podcast again in 5-10 years when you're a legend in your own right, and we'll see what else we can kind of pull out of you from there. So.
Well, and that leads to kind of probably my final question is what's next for Scott Golf?
Yeah.
Like what's on the horizon? What's on the calendar? What are you excited about? We're into a new year, just barely. What's on the horizon for you?
Okay, so right away, PGA show in 2 weeks.
Which we will be there too.
You're going to be down there?
Okay, right on. Yeah.
Sweet.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing the career zone setup too.
Oh, cool. Sweet.
So that's big. Then I've got a couple of new, I don't want to say new irons because, I'm not going to redesign something that's not broken.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's, cosmetic changes maybe, but that's about it.
Nice.
We're spread all over the world. We have 25 shops in South Korea now.
Oh, wow.
We have a clothing brand that is going to be released at the PGA show.
Cool.
Any insight you can give us early on that? Or do we have to wait to see?
I haven't even seen it yet.
Okay.
Okay, so
this is fun.
I know, so I'm going in blind.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to get it later this week.
Cool.
Very cool.
It's all made in the U.S. It's made in Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we have a manufacturer in New York City that's doing the clothing line for men and women and the caps.
Cool.
Okay, this is one of the caps.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Little
Sneak
minimalistic
peek.
design.
Yeah.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And then, that's going to be really exciting.
So you got a lot on
So,
the horizon for this
I
next
got
year.
a lot on my plate right now.
That's
Very
cool.
cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Good year.
Sweet.
Be great.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and chatting with us for a bit, and we look forward to a PGA show. We'll keep our listeners kind of updated with what we see there. But yeah, anyways, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
You bet.
Cool.
What's up, guys? We're back from our episode with Scott. Had a great conversation with him and kind of looking at what he's got on the 2024 horizon.
Sounds like it's going to be a fun year for him and everybody involved over there. So
Yeah.
we'll stay tuned with him and keep y'all posted on what he's got going on as well.
Yeah, and we'll see him at the PGA show here in a couple
In a few
weeks. And so we'll give you guys an update there. But in the meantime, give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and follow along in the podcast.
Yep.
And then
I mean, last thing is just long day challenge, as we've talked about before.
coming
Up in June 22nd. Only have a handful of spots left for that thing at the moment. Less than 25, somewhere less than that. So if you're looking to sign up or you got buddies that want to play and you're talking with them and you haven't nailed it down yet, get on top of that, get that taken care of soon because there's only a few spots left and they are trickling away. So really excited for that this year.
Yep.
Excited to possibly have Scott and his team out there as well.
Yep. So
He's excited about that as well. So if you want to come see us, come see him, and come have a good time, get signed up.
there you have it. We'll catch you next week.